Alright guys, it's time to get all up in that Halloween franchise as we rank all 13 Halloween films on 4K. Are you ready for it? Let's do this. Hey, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to the Mid-Level Media channel, your hub for everything physical media and entertainment. I am Ken, and today guys, we're going to be doing something pretty fun, a little bit different. I'm in the spooky spirit guys. We are very close to Halloween, and today we're going to be ranking the Halloween movies on 4K. So look guys, with this video, I'm going to try really hard. The movie has nothing to do with it. So this ranking of Halloween 4Ks is going to be completely different than my ranking of the franchise if I were to do that. This is not a ranking of the movies themselves. It's not a ranking of the additions, the packaging, the special features. This is strictly audio visual quality of these 4Ks of the Halloween franchise. Pretty much all the Halloween movies are on 4K with the exception of the Rob Zombie films. Those are the only two that I'm not going to be able to include in this ranking video. But there are still, guys, and like I said in the opening, there are still 13, what I would call 13 different Halloween 4Ks, because the first one has two 4Ks, and they are different 4Ks, different transfers. And Halloween 6, The Curse of Michael Myers, if you count the producer's cut and the theatrical cut, you got two different 4Ks there as well. So we're still going to be ranking 13 4Ks. We're just not going to be including the Rob Zombie films because they are not on 4K. I do want to go ahead and say this as well. I could have easily just kind of half-assed this and phoned it in and just went from memory, and I am for a few of these, but I actually went back and watched quite a few of these 4Ks recently. I kind of went on a binge of some of these movies. I watched Halloween 3, I watched the Thorn trilogy, which is Halloween 4, 5, and 6, all on 4K. And I also watched Halloween Ends on 4K because I realized I hadn't watched that 4K yet since I bought it. Several of these, like 1 and 2, I watch every year, so they're kind of fresh in my memory. And I watched Kills like a couple of years ago, so like a lot of these are pretty fresh in my memory within the past couple of years watching them on 4K. But I did need a refresher on a few of them, so I didn't want to, I didn't want to phone this in. I wanted to have actual like knowledge of what these movies look like on 4K and just how I see them now versus how I saw them back in the day. So let's just get into it, guys. Let's start with number 13, and that is going to be Halloween Resurrection. So a lot of people would put this at the bottom of their Halloween ranking. This is not at the bottom of my ranking. I actually kind of enjoy this film. It would be towards the bottom, but it's not my last Halloween movie. But in this particular ranking, it has to be number 13. I mean, most of this movie is, it's kind of like, I don't want to say found footage, but it's a reality like webcam TV show. And a lot of that is kind of presented in the film, and that doesn't look great on 4K. Now, there are scenes in the movie that are, real life, and they're walking around the house and all that stuff, and that stuff looks good. But a large portion of this movie is kind of filmed through the webcams on this like reality TV show. So just because of that, like this 4K doesn't really get a lot of opportunity to really shine in comparison to all the other ones. So not that it doesn't look good or that it doesn't look as good as it possibly can, because it does. That, like I said, look guys, Busta Rhymes kicking Michael Myers, that delivers in 4K, so definitely don't worry about that. But the 4K as a whole, like it has to be number 13. So Halloween Resurrection is my number 13. Coming in at number 12, this was kind of hard. I did pop this back in because it had literally been since 2018 since sorry guys, I can't talk ever. It's been since 2018 since I actually watched this. So I wanted to pop it in because I got the OLED TV now, and I just had a regular 4K TV back in the day. And I wanted to see if this is like as bad as people say, because there is kind of a debate between this one and the new one, but I'll just go ahead and say it. Halloween from Lionsgate is my number 12. The main reason this is my number 12 is because every time I watch Halloween now, I'm probably going to watch that Shout Factory Scream Factory edition. That's just going to be the one that I go to. Maybe I'll watch this one again in its entirety at some point. But to me, like, this didn't look bad by any means, but I do like the colors in the Scream Factory version a little bit better. I kind of prefer that versus this. Not that I expect Halloween to be this like super colorful film, but honestly, like the Halloween 4K from Scream Factory just feels more like I remember the film. And I've seen the movie so many times on VHS and DVD. Not as much Blu-ray, but I've seen it a ton on VHS and DVD. And I don't know, there's something about that screen factor that just feels more like Halloween than this Lionsgate one did. And even when I popped it in, like, I don't know, it's very dull and lifeless, and it just doesn't have the colors that pop like the Screen Factory one does, and that one will definitely be further up on my list. But it's not a bad 4K. It's not a bad 4K, but it's like when I'm thinking about which one of these am I going to watch, again, I'm probably like not going to watch this one at all. I may watch it one more time. Whereas the rest of the ones, like that's the definitive 4K for those particular releases. So that's the ones I'm going to watch. Whereas Halloween's got another 4K that I'm going to watch more often than this. So that puts this at number 12. And coming in at number 11, guys, is Halloween 5. So this is one that I watched fairly recently within the past couple of days. And I thought this was a really, solid 4K. But to be honest, it just wasn't as consistent as far as like the picture quality and how good it looked throughout as some of the other ones. But I did enjoy this a lot. Look, this one and another one that'll be featured on my list a little bit higher up. Like I used to watch these movies all the time, VHS, DVD. I had actually never seen this movie at all on Blu-ray before this 4K came out. So I went from DVD to 4K watching this. So it was definitely like mind-blowing seeing the jump in picture quality. But going back and rewatching it this time, like it still looked good, but it just didn't impress me like some of the other ones did. So that's why it gets the number 11 spot. But I think Nicolas Cage, Mike Myers mask looks great. Looks absolutely fantastic in 4K. And coming in at number 10, that's where we're at, guys. I may get some pushback for this, and this is where it gets a little weird because there are people out there that will say it's a newer movie on 4K. It's got to look better than those older movies. Like, it has to be. Like, there are people that will think that the Blumhouse trilogy should be my 1, 2, and 3 because those are the newest films and they're in the best picture quality. For those people, I will say you'll be disappointed in my list because that's not the route that I took. So coming in at number 10 is Halloween from 2018. So I did not rewatch this one. The last time I seen Halloween 2018 on 4K was probably right before Kills came out, so it was probably 2021 that I watched it. And this one, I don't know. I just, I think it looks good, and I've never seen it on Blu-ray. I've only watched this on 4K, and I saw it in the theaters, of course. But with new movies, guys, here's where my trouble is you can watch the Blu-ray and you can watch the 4K for the newer films, and you can notice a difference for sure with the application of the HDR and the Dolby Vision, all that stuff. You can notice a difference, but it's not as substantial of a difference from those older films on Blu-ray jumping to 4K. So that's where I kind of have the trouble of ranking these newer movies on 4K and getting those up a little bit higher. But I think Halloween 2018, it looks good on 4K, but it's kind of it's kind of an ugly movie at the end of the day. It's kind of very drab. It's very dreary. It doesn't have the color palette and aesthetic that some of the other more recent Halloween movies do. So of the 3 Blumhouse movies, this is my least favorite on 4K. So that's why I put that one at number 10. All right, coming in at number 9 is the one that I just watched. I thought this looked really good on 4K, but like I said, it's a newer movie, and I just don't see that substantial jump in picture quality. I wasn't wowed when I watched it because this is the only time I've watched it on physical media is on 4K, but that's Halloween Ends. Great steelbook. If we're ranking steelbooks, this might come in towards the top, but Halloween Ends, guys, and I'm not going to comment on the movie. I just watched it. I actually really enjoyed my rewatch of it, if I'm being completely honest. I know this movie gets shit on, but it's not the worst in the franchise, at least not to me. But yeah, you got Jamie Lee Curtis on the back. Why am I showing off the steelbook? We're talking about the picture quality here. Thought it looked really good, but much like 2018, it just has a very kind of like dull, aesthetic to it throughout. I don't think it has as much opportunity to shine as maybe one of the other Blumhouse Halloween movies did, or some of these other movies on my list. I do think there are parts of this that look really great. The Dolby Atmos track sounds excellent. I really noticed that watching this movie on 4K. Some of those scenes in the cave, those look incredible. There are some really incredible looking sequences in this film. But it's just a very dull, dreary Halloween movie. There's just not a lot to it that really pops or stands out other than those cave scenes. So yeah, Halloween Ends comes in at my number 9. All right, let's just do number 8 and number 7. Like I said, I'm going to rank these two as their own individual 4Ks. And since it's pretty much the same movie, they're going to be pretty close together. So coming in at my number 8 is Halloween: The Curse of Michael Myers, the producer's cut. And coming in at number 7 is Halloween: Curse of Michael Myers, the theatrical cut. So look, I really actually like both cuts. I just think that the theatrical cut has more chances to shine than the producer's cut does. I like the hospital setting at the end, some of the weird stuff that happens there towards the end of the movie. I think all that stuff looks great on 4K. The movie itself just looks really good on 4K. There's a really nice jump in picture quality from that Blu-ray to the 4K here. And the producer's cut, like the druid stuff and all the stuff in like the temple, that looks good in 4K. For me, like, I don't know, for some reason, the theatrical cut, just throughout it aesthetically, just the way it looks, the stuff where it leads to at the end, I just thought it looked better in 4K than the producer's cut did. But maybe you like the producer's cut better on 4K, but from my eyes, I like the theatrical version, and I just watched this last night. I actually watched the theatrical cut. I haven't seen the producer's cut since I reviewed it a couple of years ago, but I have seen it recently. But I really like the theatrical cut. There's just a look to it, and it looks really good on 4K. And I don't know. That's just my opinion, guys. Again, it's very close because it's pretty much the same movie. Although I will say, like, watching Curse of Michael Myers, like sometimes you'll watch different cuts and you're like, oh, this is pretty much the same movie. They just changed a few things here and there. But with the producer's cut versus the theatrical cut of Halloween: Curse of Michael Myers, there is a really big difference. Like, it almost feels like a different movie at times when you're watching them. So I will say that, but I do like the theatrical cut on 4K a little bit better. So that's my number 7. And the producer's cut is my number 8. So let's get into number 6. That's right. We got 6 more to go. And I'm going to talk about my favorite Halloween film, guys. Yes, my favorite Halloween film is Halloween 2. I think Halloween 2 looks great on 4K. It looks absolutely stunning on 4K. This is where we're getting to the portion of the video where, like, all these look fantastic and they all have something great to take away from as far as the 4K format. But I just couldn't get this one any higher because of some of the other ones that I'm dealing with. I'm like, I can't get this one any higher because at the end of the day, it is set in a very boring, dull hospital setting. I will acknowledge that, even though I think the hospital setting is very creepy and really adds to the effectiveness of this film. That's why it's my favorite in the entire franchise. But as far as the 4K goes, there's not a ton of opportunity for it to really pop. The stuff at the end with Michael Myers and the bleeding eyes and the explosion, that stuff looks great. Looks absolutely fantastic. The stuff in the beginning where he's got the tracking shot like through the neighborhood where he's looking through the windows, all that stuff looks fantastic. So there are some moments that look great. And I love this movie so much. So to see it in the best possible picture quality was just mind-blowing to me. Like, I've watched these movies like a certain way my entire life, and getting to watch them like this, it's just like, oh my God, it almost makes me want to cry just thinking about it. But Halloween 2, I cannot wait to rewatch this one again this year on 4K. I always save the first one and the second one for Halloween night. I watch them every Halloween night. That's kind of a tradition for me. But Halloween 2 is stellar on 4K, but I just couldn't get any higher than number 6. Coming in at number 5, guys, and this is where you know that I'm not being biased because I can't stand this movie at all. But it's coming in at my number 5. It's beating out my favorite Halloween film, and that is freaking Halloween Kills. This movie looks excellent. It looks absolutely excellent on 4K. The sound is great, the Dolby Atmos. The score in this is fantastic. I don't know. There is something about this 4K, the way that Michael Myers looks in this 4K, how we see. Look, I like the brutality of Myers. It's just all the stupidity around this film that I can't stand. But Michael Myers, like, just how he looks in this film is fantastic. And when he's facing all those townspeople at the end, as stupid as it is, it looks awesome when they're all like swinging at him and blood's flying everywhere and he's freaking throwing stuff at them, batting them away with like bats, and there's people throwing freaking irons at him and stuff. Like, it's completely ridiculous, but it all looks great. All looks great on 4K. The fire, though, the fire sequence where he's coming out of the house and he fights all the firefighters, like, that alone is what gets this in my top 5. Like, that is an excellent sequence that looks so freaking awesome and fantastic in 4K. Like, I hate this movie, but I was blown away watching that sequence in 4K. And I just think overall this movie just has a look to it, and it just looks a lot better in 4K than the other two movies do. All right, guys, getting into my number 4. I gotta have respect for the OG, okay? We gotta talk about Halloween, and some people will say that should be number one, Ken. That's up there with Jaws on 4K, The Shining on 4K, The Thing on 4K, all the great 4Ks, you know, horror classic 4Ks. And look, it looks really good. I think the original Halloween from Scream Factory looks excellent on 4K. Like I said, I prefer it over the Lionsgate one, but I'm showing respect to it because it's the original. I have to put it at least at number 4. I couldn't get it any higher than this. But yes, I like the way that this one looks versus the Lionsgate one. I like the colors. I like the aesthetic. I like how Laurie looks just walking through the neighborhood at the beginning. It just, I don't know, it just looks better. It reminds me of when I was a kid watching this film on VHS, on DVD. As weird as that sounds, because it's so much better picture quality, but it transports me back to that era, and it just matches visually what I remember seeing when I was a kid. It definitely does this film justice. I think this is the best 4K that we could probably ever hope for this movie. So yeah, comes in at number 4, the original Halloween on 4K. All right, guys, we're in the nitty gritty right now with the top 3, and I don't think anybody's going to disagree with my number 3, because when you think of this film, you think of those incredible, you know, Halloween costume colors and your greens and your oranges and your yellows and all that stuff. I'm talking about Halloween 3, guys, Season of the Witch. Look, there are some people that would say this is number 1. This is number 1 on their list. And look, guys, it's an incredible 4K. It looks absolutely fantastic on 4K. When you got those scenes with those masks just on full display, like, it looks great. The scene with the kid with the pumpkin mask and what happens to him, I'm not going to spoil it, looks incredible. Like, there are so many incredible looking sequences in this film. It goes very sci-fi at a certain point, and all that stuff looks great. It is Halloween 3 like you've never seen it before. And like I said, it was good enough to make it into it's good enough to beat the original, guys. At this point, that's where we're at. It was good enough to beat the original. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. It's a super fun movie. I've really grown a fondness for this film in my adult years. I hated it when I was a kid, but I like this movie a lot now, and it looked fantastic, absolutely fantastic. However, like, you visualize this 4K looking in your head, because I think a lot of people knew this is going to be one of the standout 4Ks when Scream Factory announced it. That's how it looks, and they did such a great job on this one. So Halloween 3 is my number 3. Now let's get into my number 2, and that is Halloween H2O. I actually struggled really hard on this one because I almost put this at number 1. This looked pristine. Absolutely pristine on 4K. So Paramount has got a steelbook of this out right now if it's still available. They put out their own 4K, and Scream Factory has their own 4K as well. But I didn't include both of those versions because that's the same transfer. That's the exact same 4K. But I'm telling you right now, like, this blew me away when I watched it. Like, Halloween H2O had never looked this good. I didn't think it could look this good. Like, it looked absolutely amazing. Just the facial detail, just the detail in general of this 4K. I think it has a great setting. I think the college setting is great. It's set in California, so it's got a lot of beautiful scenery in it. But I just thought, I don't know, you got the fall leaves everywhere and stuff because it's fall time. I just thought it looked excellent. Like, it blew me away all throughout. The scene where Laurie goes up to the window, Michael goes up. I don't know. Like, there are several sequences in this film that really stand out in 4K. Like, when he's flipping the tables and stuff at the end, chasing her in the school in the cafeteria. Like, all that stuff just looks so incredibly good. I don't know. There was just something about this 4K when I watched it. I was like, this looks like a movie that was made today. Like, looks like a movie that was made today. It is that pristine. Like, I would have thought this was one of the Blumhouse movies. Like, that's how good this looked on 4K. So H2O to me is an absolute standout. Like, it was almost my number 1. Almost my number 1. But I rewatched my number 1 recently again just to make sure. And it's my number 1. So yeah, H2O is my number 2. But let's go ahead and bring out number 1. And that is Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. So this was a special experience for me. I kind of set this up when I talked about Halloween 5. But Halloween 4 was the first ever Halloween movie that I watched when I was a kid. I watched this on VHS. I watched it over and over again. I watched the DVD when I got that over and over again. But I never got the Blu-ray. So this is my first time experiencing Halloween 4 in HD and also UHD at the same time. So I was absolutely blown away with the picture quality here. Like, this was Halloween 4 like I had never, ever seen it before. Like, it was always a great movie to me. Like, I always loved it, but it just felt a little bit more like lower budget. Like, when I was a kid, like, I don't even know if I realized this movie like went straight to theaters, because there were so many horror films at the time that went straight to video. I almost thought that this was like a straight to video Halloween film at one point in time. But like, watching this on 4K, it just felt so cinematic. Like, there was just something about this movie on 4K that just felt so cinematic. And I'm like, oh my God, like, this is on the level of the first one and the second one. Like, it looks so incredible. Just the opening, like in the hospital, like when they're going into the hospital, like wheeling him out of the hospital, it's raining, they get into the ambulance, like that entire sequence looks fantastic. Oh my God, it looked so freaking good. And this whole 4K as a whole just blew me away. And it also helps, guys, I'm just super nostalgic for this one as well. It's just one that means a lot to me. And like I said, I watched it on the lesser formats so many times. So when I finally got a chance to watch this on 4K, I was like, oh my God, I had no idea this movie could look as good as it did. And also just think this movie is so visually interesting. Like, there's just a lot going on in this film that is freaking really cool and unique and different for the franchise that I feel like all the other ones are. I mean, come on, guys. You got Kelly, the cops do it by the book girl in 4K. Like, what more could you want? Like, that's number one worthy in and of itself. But Halloween 4, guys, I don't know. There was just something about it from Scream Factory. It blew me away. I thought it was fantastic. So that is my number one. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video, me ranking the Halloween 4Ks. This is really one of the only like big franchises I can do this for, because there's not a lot of franchises that are big like Halloween, where most of them all have 4Ks except for the Rob Zombie one. So probably a pretty unique video that I won't have the opportunity to really do a whole lot of in the future again. So thank you all so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those bell notifications for all future videos, and follow me on all my social media accounts. Those links are down below in the description, and we'll see you next time.